in the coming kingdom. It's a continuation of Mark's message of imperfection and forgiveness. Again, this is historically most likely not necessarily known at the time, and there's been great turmoil, some betrayal by church members to one another. And here we have a story where in the end, the apostles betray Jesus, Peter denies him, and all of that. Yet at the very end, Jesus asks them to meet him in Galilee. Okay, it's a story of forgiveness. Those are the pragmatic things about the writing. But this week I want to look at more theological message behind this. It's all again about the blindness. At that time, the apostles seem to be blind to what the message of Jesus is. And they, 3 times you talk about his death, they keep thinking about this kingdom, right? They're still looking for, and you've got to understand, it's a cultural and it's a religious blindness, because they're Jews. They're looking for a conquering king. This is what their religion had taught them. They're looking for a Messiah that's going to come in, and they're going to grasp somebody that's going to give those Romans their wonderful, and we're going to come out on top, and we're going to have justice, and all of these things. They're not looking for a man of peace, a man that's worried about people rather than individual justice, almost more than coming in and conquering the Romans. Unfortunately, I think many of us are still looking for that kind. We can see that right up until the arrest in the garden, the apostles still don't get it. They're still looking for that king, that conquering king. Because remember, in the arrest, one of the apostles draws the sword and cuts off the ear of one of the high priests, serving different identifications in the different Gospels as to who it is. In John, he goes so far as to tell us that the apostle that cuts the ear off is Peter of all people. It's almost like he could think. He's thinking, here comes the legions of angels. They're coming now. I'm going to get in the first blow in this war of us against, righting all the wrongs against us. I'm, going to get in that first strike. And Jesus, of course, stops him. Matthew goes so far to talk about, and even have Jesus say, couldn't I, if I want, to call in, legions of angels to come to my aid, but it doesn't. So Matthew goes that far to try to answer that question. Mark doesn't do that. He just leaves it empty. One of the interesting theories about Judas even is that Judas was a zealot. One of the interesting theories is that they think that perhaps Judas thought that by betraying Jesus and having them arrest him, he would force his hand. It would force him to call in the angels, and therefore bring in Judgment Day and the coming of the Messiah, and what he was looking for in that coming king. Now that's speculation, but we do have the story in Matthew where he is, seems to be sad or upset over what he has done, and he throws the money back and all of that, and then goes and hangs himself. So there is some speculation on that. We'll never know, but it is an interesting theological aside that even he seems to, at some point, perhaps, realize his error and is waiting for that conquering king. So with that, I want to get back to this, to Barabbas. The blindness of the people. The story. Here we have the triumphant entry that's coming, and it's about very soon. With Jesus coming in, with Palm Sunday and all of that good stuff. The people are all excited about it, but yet just a few days later, they're telling Pilate that they want Barabbas released, and they'll crucify Jesus. There's a lot of argument of whether it's the same crowd or not the same crowd, from a pragmatic standpoint, perhaps a historical standpoint, but from a theological standpoint, it's very important to look at that and realize that they have suddenly noticed that Jesus is not the conquering king. That's not the kind of Messiah he is. We want Barabbas, we have Jesus, the Son of the Father. Barabbas, the Son of the Father, again, who is thought to be a zealot, he was an insurrectionist. It tells us that he had murdered people in a riot. It's thought that is talking about an uprising, that he killed some people in an uprising. We know that the zealots are an active group, that they're trying to looking for a Messiah, a man of violence. it's thought that theologically rather, it's the picking of the man of violence over the man of peace. Okay? We want the man of action. We like these men of action. We still like that today, right? We're looking for the Stallone, the Schwarzenegger guy. We're not looking for the man who's talking about peace and talking about trying to work it out and love one another. This lesson of violence, or of blindness that we see in Mark is a very hard lesson. It seems so difficult that Mark even seems to resign himself to the fact that we're not going to get it in the way that he ends the gospel. We talked about last week a little bit about the historical part, and I apologize if I worry a little bit of history. That's one of my things that I enjoy a great deal. And I think it is important in understanding the scriptures, understanding some of the history of the document. All the oldest manuscripts end at verse 8 and 16. The rest of the older or newer manuscripts, you have various endings. But at the end, or the ending that they think is the historic ending, we have this from 16:5 through 8. The woman entered the tomb, the women entered the tomb and saw a young man wearing a white robe and sitting on the right side, and they were afraid. The man said, "Don't be afraid. We're looking for Jesus from Nazareth, who has been crucified. He has risen from the dead. He is not here. Look, here's the place that they laid him. Now go and tell his followers and Peter, Jesus is going into Galilee ahead of you, and you will see him there, as he told you before." The women were confused and shaking with fear, so they left the tomb and ran away. They did not tell anyone about what happened because they were afraid. Rather than doing what they're told by this young man, whether we want to think of him as an angel or a messenger, he certainly is angelic in the fact that he is a messenger from God. Here he's giving us a theological message to go into Galilee, wait for Jesus. So Jesus' brothers waiting for you there. They lack the faith to follow Jesus to Galilee. It's uncomfortable, so uncomfortable that people seem to have added to the gospel. One of the things we should take away from this story really is that I think that this is one of the best stories. This is the story of the blind man. This is the last healing, by the way, on the way to Passover and to the whole crucifixion and everything. This is the last miracle, the last healing. We can take away from this and follow the example of Bartimaeus, the man of poverty, the son of poverty, rather. This man that seems to have nothing but a persistent faith, believe that God can help him out with his problem and can take care of it. Because again, in chapter 10, it says, Jesus stopped and said, "Tell the man to come here." So they called the blind man, saying, "Cheer up, get to your feet. Jesus is calling you." The blind man jumped up, left his coat there, and went to Jesus. Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The man answered, "Teacher, I want to see." Jesus said, "Go, you are healed because you believe." And once the man could see, and he followed Jesus on the road. Jesus said, "Go, you are healed because you believe." And once the man could see him again, he says, "Follow on the road." That's important, that last part, follow Jesus. Okay? You've got to not only believe, persistent and ask, but you need to follow. And they don't always like where it's going. We don't always understand where it's going. We just have to be with faith to step out. There's lots of those things that talk about taking that step into nothingness and not knowing where you're going. And be like the blind man. He took a step. He didn't know he was going to be able to go back to his coat if he really stopped and thinks about this. But he has the faith and believes Jesus can take care of it. With that, let's have a closing prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I do ask that you be with us all, that you give us that persistent faith. Let us emulate Bartimaeus in his example of complete commitment to you, and something forth to leave behind